Can't imagine.
Good evening and welcome to tonight's Common Council meeting for Wednesday, August 14th, 2024. Clerk will call the roll, please.
Tauschak, Herman,
Here.
Matzdorf,
Here.
Gilson,
Here.
Hildebrand, Penkwitz,
Here.
Binder,
Here.
Nelson.
Here.
Let the record show we have a quorum. Next is the pledge. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. The chair will entertain a motion.
I'll move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
We have a first and a second for approving the consent agenda. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll, please.
Nelson,
Yes.
Matzdorf,
Yes.
Penkwitz,
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
Binder,
Yes.
Gilson.
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 4, this is the audience portion where we ask people to sign in and be recognized. This is where you do the talking and we do the listening. And tonight we have a couple of people that signed up. The first one, I hope I say this right, Het? Did I say that right? Thank you. You can stand there and speak or you can come forward. Tell us what's on your mind.
My friend did tell me I have 3 minutes to speak, and I tell myself, 3 minutes before I open my mouth, that's probably over. My problem is, I had a sign in my job, and I don't understand that the place I live. That's a nice neighborhood, but I didn't see nobody have a sign on. And I am the only one. I have the sign since 2020. Because I so hurt when I see the situation problem. And I still continue to support the person who take care of America. And I went to the office and I tell the gentleman who wrote the letter, I say, no, if two parties, Democrat, Republican, Democrat do what they want to do, Republican, we can do what we want to do. And somebody complained because I had too many signs. That's my house. I pay property tax, I do not wrong. I did have to support the person, the hero, who almost get killed to protect our country. They have no right to tell me. I am blamed. If those people complaining, they have the right to put it on if they want to. And if they're complaining, there are few people sometimes they try to say, oh, they don't like it, they don't like that. After I talk, I mean in a public, not this situation. And after I explain for them, and they say from now on, they said, don't like that person because one thing. You have to look at the whole thing because you don't like that person. So, I don't have no problem. Anywhere I'm going, I be proud, put this on. I be proud to support the good hero. I be proud inside and outside. I want so people, I support the right person. People complain, oh, he do this, do that, wrong. Who not doing wrong? Even the kid, even the children. But if you turn back to do the right thing, then those people I am care. So, and if you say because somebody complain, will you please tell them, this is America. This is the freedom. Freedom, a lot of wrong things they do, but they don't see that. But then they want to stop the people who believe to care for the hero. And if they say because the leader, tell them what to do. But where you're right. If you know the leader wrong, you should resign. Because that's the reason in my country, the people two-faced, the people hypocrite, because the pack of enemy together with us. And that's why our country lose. But I say that's not fair for the lose. When Americans go home, they have two parties to help them, maybe then more than that. Russian at the time, China at the time, to help the communist side. I leave my country when I was 23 years. to protect my child at the time. They threatened to kidnap the children over there. At the time, I'm working for the American in my country too. I hurry to find a way to come in here for my child's sake. And I don't want to live in the country we're going to become communist because the way it is, the communist control. So that's the reason I am here for. If whoever complain because I have too many sides, that's their problem. They should come and tell me rather than go tell somebody. I will explain for them, then they maybe understand and they maybe to do like the same thing I do. Because another day when the people come to my house to do the work, they see I have on over the side and I'm good to them. And they say, oh, I maybe change my mind, vote for Trump. I say, why not? He died for us. He take care of Americans for 4 years. Everything is good. Everything. Don't anybody see that? Why they complain? Because I have too many his side on my job. I pay public tax. I pay everything wrong in my house. Them people, I work 7 days a week. Single mom, raise 5 children. I'm not even on welfare. I work double shift to save my money to go home. People in here had a big mouth. They said, oh, racist. You know what? I live in here 50-some years. The American compare racist, you have only 1%. It's up to you how you become racist. I work in a factory. No, I don't say because Americans don't have racism. Like I say, 1% out of 100% from another country. The people who say racist, because they know you scary that word, they even sue you or even take you to the court because they're not white. I'm telling you the fact because I am living here 50-some years. I work in a factory. I'm not on welfare to take care of my 5 children because I'm be proud to work in a freedom country. You very good. I work for you guys over there. I just love. And since I come to America, I love even more. People so nice, so understanding, they don't look at you with different things unless your attitude is wrong. And same thing, don't blame because why President Trump mean you ugly attitude with him, he give you back. I do the same thing. I be nice to you. If you do me wrong, I will tell them off too. I'm nobody. I do the same thing. So he not nobody. So then don't complain about he did this wrong, did that wrong. You have to look at yourself first before you're complaining about racism. American don't give me money to tell you guys good. I'm working hard for what I am deserved in the freedom to be with the nice people. And right now, I'm single too. My husband passed away. Everything I'm doing my alone. Go to shopping, the thing high up the sky. Gasoline, I cannot go to many places. Only one in the while I go, I kill 2 or 3 birds at once because gasoline too high. I cannot go too much. I don't sit in out get easy money and complaining. No, I'm working hard for what I believe. And I love this country from my heart. Not just say because I'm here, just be. I'm not hypocrite. What I see and what I believe, what I'm saying. That is me. I'm done. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you understand because with my accent, sometimes maybe not, and sometimes I'm talk fast. I have to do that to survive all my life. So that's the reason why sometimes I'm talk fast. Thank you so much for listening. One more thing. I say, if somebody use the word racist, come and talk with me. I say, you don't give me money to talk good about America. I'm done. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming on. Next person that signed up, John Nelson. John.
Okay, I'll just stay here. By chance, I guess I'm going to speak on the same subject and tell people in the public that there is a code or in our city government that there is a limit of 3 political signs per yard, and we should stick to that limit. It should be enforced. I've seen a couple of yards that have 5 or so signs. The limit is 3. I respect people's right to endorse who they wish in the political system, but there is a limit of 3 signs per yard. And that's in code. If you don't like that, I guess you'd have to challenge it in court or whatever, but that is the rule. And we like to live by rules. The second thing I'd like to note is that 3 companies graciously gave time and materials and labor for pouring the slab for the Sugar Shack at City Park last week. Quash's Construction did the laying of the concrete. Taylor Concrete provided the concrete, and Bauman Excavating did the excavation for it. Probably roughly $4,000 to $5,000 worth of effort and materials, and they donated that to us. So thank you to those companies.
Thank you, John. Again, we appreciate when people come and talk to us on the council and tell us what's on their mind. You do the talking, we do the listening. Moving on, item 5, no items were removed from the agenda tonight. Item 5 is not needed. I declare a public hearing open for ordinance number 11, an ordinance amending 13-1-21 zoning map of the city of Plymouth by changing property from multifamily residential to traditional neighborhood. And I'll ask our city administrator, Tim Blakesley, to start the discussion, and then I'll recognize anybody else who wants to speak on this subject. Tim.
Sure, and before I dive into this, I did want to just note the election was yesterday. I wanted to give kudos to our clerk, Anna Voigt, and our deputy clerk, Paul Seymour, for the nice job that they did. So kudos to them. Other than that, the ordinance before you is ordinance number 11, which is a rezoning of parcel 5927-1821046 and 047, which are currently zoned as R4, which is multifamily residential, and they are seeking a rezoning to the R5 traditional neighborhood district. So this is the property directly south of the St. Vinny's, directly east of the Plymouth School District. Currently, again, these are zoned as multifamily. The SCEDC is looking for a proposed future development. This was presented at our Plan Commission, a proposed single-family housing development. And at the meeting at August 1st at the Plan Commission, they unanimously recommended the request to rezone from that R4 to R5. Oftentimes you'll see these with a comp plan amendment. This one is just strictly a rezoning because it's already listed as residential in the comprehensive plan. So given the adjacent property uses and the consistency, staff does support the request to use the R5 district and recommends approval of ordinance number 11.
Thank you. As stated, the chair will recognize anybody else who wants to speak on this subject at hand, being the rezoning from R4 to R5. Seeing none, I declare the public hearing closed. The chair will entertain a motion on ordinance number 11 as presented.
So moved to approve ordinance 11.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll on the ordinance, please.
Herman,
Yes.
Matsdorf,
Yes.
Binder,
Yes.
Pankwitz,
Yes.
Gilson,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 7, new business. Approved job description for Assistant Administrator, Community Development Director. Again, I'll ask Tim Blakesley, our City Administrator, to give us a brief summary on that. Tim.
Sure, so we've discussed this, this will be the third time at this point, so we discussed this item at the Finance and Personnel Committee 2 months ago, and then again with the approval of Witkowski inspections, but I'll go through it a little more detail here tonight for the Common Council. So as part of the 24 budget, we did plan to bring the building inspection and zoning administration in-house. Unfortunately, it was very difficult to fill that position. It's a very specific credentials are required for the building inspector portion of that. And that zoning administrator portion on top just adds another layer of complexity to the job. So we decided to sort of pivot on that and split it into just contracting out the building inspector position and then bringing those zoning administration duties in-house as part of a new position. Again, the Finance and Personnel Committee did recommend moving forward with that July 29th unanimously. So part two, again, is to create what a position we're titling Assistant Administrator and Community Development Director. So that position is going to, again, serve as that zoning administrator position, which is currently the building inspector, conduct and improve property maintenance reviews and inspections. That's currently the administrator. Work to develop relationships with local businesses, help bring in future potential businesses, and continue to work with key community organizations. That's a shared responsibility. That would continue to be a shared responsibility, but the goal is to really broaden out outreach. Again, this is a position that we'll talk about funding here shortly, but can help really pay for itself by bringing in business and retaining business in the community. It's going to support various city and utility developments and planning efforts. As we see, the SEEDC is moving forward with the project. We've got another large project, residential on the eastern part of town, a number of other commercial projects in the works. And right now, that's a shared responsibility between Inspector Pete, Kathy, and myself. Additional support with all of these projects in the hopper is highly recommended. Increase and improve utility and city communications. Really, I know a goal of the Common Council has been to really improve those communication efforts to residents. We've already started that with a new newsletter and obviously encourage everyone to subscribe, but the plan is to continue to improve those efforts. Again, serve property maintenance, grass and weed inspector. Currently, that's Kathy's position. It's something that has sort of fallen to her as just a duty that's been assigned, but it's something that probably does not really quite fit the role that she has. And then help support miscellaneous projects. There's a number of projects we would love to do, and unfortunately time just doesn't allow with the current staffing. So to fund this position, there'll be a limited, if any, impact on the general fund. So as we've discussed, there were some wages and benefits already budgeted in the 24 budget as part of bringing the position in-house. So those total around $36,298. The zoning administration duties, again, are not going to be paid to the new inspector. That's about $14,600. There's that change in revenue for the building inspector from 90% to 80%. That's approximately $10,000. And then there's going to likely be a small permit revenue bump based on the permit fees that we saw. That's another $5,000. So based on the general fund, there's approximately $65,000, $66,000 of funding that will be available for this position without any impact on the general fund. The utility will pick up likely between $20,000 to $25,000 of the position. So if there is some potential need based on salary or wages in the future, potentially the general fund will pick up a little bit, but other than that, it should be relatively budget neutral for the general fund. Again, happy to answer any questions. Staff does recommend approval of the job description and then directing staff to move forward with the hiring process this year.
Thank you. At this point, the chair will entertain a motion so we can discuss.
I'll move that we approve the job description for the Assistant Administrator, Community Development Director.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion, any questions?
Mayor,
John?
I thought it was a pretty thorough job description. It's something I think we've talked about for several years, actually, with downtown developing businesses. You know, I personally would like to see a little more diversity in our industry in the area. And it's going to take somebody out there pounding the streets trying to draw in employers. I see it as an investment, just like if you were going to put out $50,000 of your own money to gain $100,000 back, you would do that. This is very similar in that if we invest, say, $40,000 and we bring in a couple of businesses that bring us back $100,000, I think that's pretty good business. That's the way a business would run. They would hire an economic or development coordinator, and you know, people criticize government for not running like a business. Well, this is our opportunity to show that we can do some things like a business. So I'm fully supportive of this investment.
Thank you, John. Anybody else? Do we have like a 70-30 split between the city and the utilities? Is there a, not to hold it
Yeah, so
to it.
we talked about this today. We just started our budget meetings for 25. It's going to be 70-30, 65-35, somewhere in that
Okay,
range.
in that range.
We'll have those numbers probably
As
more
we
buttoned
develop.
down in the next
Yeah.
month. Yep.
Okay. So it won't be entirely on the city side?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, good. Any other questions?
I agree with you, John. Just, what you had to say there makes sense to me.
We got a lot of activity on the table and coming, so certainly we want to be responsive to those inquiries and proceed accordingly too, so that helps. John?
I just want to add too, I think we're coming into an unprecedented era where we're going to have some massive development going on here. And we need to do it right and not to put the whole burden on Tim as an administrator to handle all those things. It's a lot. And you talk about Brian doing it from economic development. That guy is really busy and he's done wonderful things for Sheboygan Falls and Sheboygan and now us. We need somebody out there being the champion for our city.
Any other comments? Clerk will call the roll on the motion to approve the job description as stated.
Nelson,
Yes.
Pankwitz,
Yes.
Matsdorf,
Yes.
Gilson,
Yes.
Binder,
Yes.
Herman.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Moving on to item 2. This will be our most interesting item this evening.
For an accountant, huh?
For an accountant, I personally have read every single page, haven't memorized every page, but well acquainted with them, and there's a lot of material in there. I'll ask our city administrator, Tim, to make an opening comment on the presentation of our financial audit report. Tim?
Yeah, and I have it easy tonight on this one. I'm going to introduce our finance director, Chris Russo, to give just a few brief comments and introduce our auditors, Baker Tilly, and go from there. Overall, the city's in great financial shape. Chris?
Perfect. Thanks, Tim. Oh, man, this is exciting stuff. Yeah, Tim summed it up very well, right? We're blessed to be in a great financial position here. That's very good going forward, especially with all the fun stuff coming up on the horizon. So I guess just a few notable items just to point out. General fund increased by $222,000 this year, so that's always a plus. A big portion of that is interest income. So that's always exciting to see. The city retired at $3.5 million of debt, so that's always good to see as we're gearing up for potentially some more that we're paying out in current balance. And then just the last, I guess, big point to note is that capital improvement fund is going to look a little bit higher by the way the 2023 items are looking out, and that's just mainly due to some of our projects that were in 23 carrying over until the next year to wrap up in 24. So we're still looking at the kind of settling back where it normally does at that $1 million to $900,000. But I guess without further ado, I'll introduce our auditors here. We have Baker Tilly from the city side and the utility side. Depending on who's all going to share, we do have Justin here, we do have Freddie, and it looks like we do have Aaron as well. So I'll let you guys take it away.
Sounds good. Thanks, Chris. Good evening, everyone. I guess I have to make this as interesting as possible. But as Chris said, I'm the principal at Baker Tilly, and I help run the state side of your audit. We also have Aaron, and Aaron works with here as principal on the energy and utilities team and does the utility side of your audit, and then we're Freddie joining as well, also on the utility side. But so we did issue your financial statements for 2023 back on July 29th. And first, just thanks to Chris, Tim, everyone involved in the audit. The audit did go very smoothly. I think we only had about 5 or a handful of audit entries, which is well below, I would say, the average that we see. I would say on average I see 15 to 20 entries that we have to make as part of the audit to kind of get your books in shape. So again, kudos to them. And they're always responsive to our emails and everything, so it makes our job easier, right? Feel free to stop, us at any time if you do have questions, but first, just wanted to go over a couple of the reports that we issue as part of our audit. We do issue a report called the Reporting and Insights from the 2023 Audit. This document has a lot of different information in it. Any internal control deficiencies that we noted as part of your audit, any recommendations, has our contact information in it. If you ever need to get a hold of us, feel free to reach out at any point during the year. And it just has some other required communications that we need to give those charged with governance to the council. Next, we obviously issued your financial statements themselves. The main item I wanted to point out on that is our opinion, which is on Roman numeral pages 1 through 3. So we do issue what's called an unmodified or a clean opinion on your financial statements, which is similar to years past, so all good on that front. And now to get into what I would call the interesting stuff, right, the financial highlights. So hopefully, I know you all have your council packets, a document that says City of Plymouth financial highlights on it. That's where I'm going to start. And Chris almost did my job for me since you're ready for some of the stuff I'm going to talk about. But if you look at page 1 of that document, you should see a bar graph and then on top of that. We're kind of comparing again with the general fund. I always like to look at the general fund when it's looking at the health of the municipality, right? This is the main operating fund of the city where a lot of your day-to-day transactions come through. And specifically, I like to look at your fund balance or your equity that's built up over the years. And so this bar chart is showing, what that total equity is doing. Like Chris said, it went up over 200,000, and then it breaks it down in different buckets. And so, kind of starting at the bottom here, we have two steps considered non-spendable, that 161,000. And so that's non-spendable, that's not spendable for. So some of that relates to inventory, prepaids, advances. For an advance, for example, you're not expected to get that collected within a year. That's considered non-spendable. It's not a spendable form. So that's the general fund advancing funds to other funds. Above that category, you have your assigned fund balance, 640,000. The city can assign funds for various things. A lot of places do it for different capital projects that they know are coming up, that they want to set money aside for. Stuff like that. Again, this is what the city can assign funds for, and then you can unassign it too, at your discretion. But then kind of what's left over is your unassigned fund balance, that 2.6 million at the end of 2023. Again, that can be used or not used at the city's discretion. The other item I wanted to highlight on this page is that summarized income statement in the middle. So this is a super high level budget to actual for your general fund for the year. You can see that you budgeted, you had a balanced budget, right? Revenues equal expenditures. But again, as Chris noted, we actually had a net income of $222,000 for 2023. And the huge reason for that is your investment income, like again Chris said, was about $262,000 over budget. And we're really seeing this at all the municipalities that we do. Interest rates went up drastically from 2022 to 2023, and overall the market conditions were improving during that time as well. So all the municipalities that we audit saw a huge increase in investment income this year. So that's a big reason why you would over budget in that fund. So moving on to page 2 of that document. So again, this focuses around the general fund balance. And so one ratio that we like to calculate is we take that, that unrestricted fund balance we just talked about, dividing it by your general fund expenditures. Essentially, this is saying, if we don't take in any more revenue, how long can we kind of keep paying the bills, keep the lights on, just with that, unrestricted fund balance that we have sitting there. And so the city is in red here on that graph. And so at the end of 2023, that ratio is at 41.8%, which equates to about 5 months. The city does have a fund balance policy that they want that ratio to be between 20 and 25%. So you have been above that here for the last 4 years. Much better to be above that ratio than, or that fund balance policy than below it. And you can kind of see the blue dots here. Those are other municipalities your size in Wisconsin and where they're at. So you're pretty much in line with other municipalities on average in Wisconsin the last couple of years here. So moving on to the third page. So another important area to look at when assessing the financial health of a municipality is its debt, right? And so what this chart is doing is looking mainly at your general obligation debt. And so the city's allowed to take out up to 5% of your equalized value in general obligation debt. So the black line here is showing, again, what that limit is, how much geo debt you can take out. And the red is how much actual geo debt you had taken out or outstanding during those years. And so at the end of 2023, you essentially have used up about 16% of your debt capacity. I'd say on average, this is a little bit below other municipalities in Wisconsin. So you do have a good chunk of capacity there if you do have to do funding in the future. So going on to page 4 here. So again, this chart focuses around debt. And so one thing that we always like to look at is determining, what percent of your normal routine expenditures do you have to devote to pay off debt? Because right, if you have to use your money to pay off debt, then you can't use it to, buy a truck or, create a new position like you guys were talking about. And so the city's in green here. And so for 2023, again, about 18.7% of your expenditures had to go to cover debt service. The black dots, again, are other municipalities your size in Wisconsin. So you're pretty consistent where other municipalities are. So definitely nothing to be concerned about as far as how much debt you have outstanding or how much debt service you're paying each year. You're in a good spot. One other thing I wanted to mention on the city side is your ARPA funding, the American Rescue Plan Act funds that you would have received in 2021 and 2022. Just a reminder that those do need to be spent or obligated by the end of 2024. I believe at the end of 2023, you had about $600,000 remaining. So again, making sure you have a plan in place to get that spent. It can be spent on almost anything. You can't use it to pay off debt service and a couple other things, but besides that, you can use it for salaries, whatever. We're just really want to point this out to our clients so that they don't have to, have money clawed back by the federal government or anything like that. They did just come out with some new rules saying you can go past 2024 in certain situations, but again, would recommend that you get that spent by the end of 2024 if possible. Are there any questions on what I've gone over so far before I pass it over to the utility side?
No, I think that's good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Aaron Worthman. I was the lead principal for the utilities portion of the audit. This audit presentation is similar to what it's been in prior years. We'll be going through the utilities packet as well, going through some of those financial statement highlights. But just to start again, to reiterate, our audit was performed in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards. Those are the standards that we're required to follow as your audit firm. And our audit objective is to obtain reasonable assurance that your financial statements are free from material misstatement. Similar to the city, your utilities financial statements have received an unmodified opinion, which is also known as a clean opinion, which is the highest level of assurance that we can provide as your audit firm. So if we look at those packets, on page 2. I'll start out with a couple metrics I like to look at. Is we like to look at sales. How are the sales for your utilities going? We also like to look at the debt position and also your cash position as well. We look at all those things to determine the financial health of your utility. So if we look at page 2, this shows a comparison of your electric kilowatt hours sold. So if you look at 2022, you had about 264 million sales of kilowatt hours. We had a slight decrease in 2023 to 260 million kilowatt hours. One thing that we've talked about in years past is when it comes to utilities, whether it be electric or water, conservation is always front and center of everyone's mind. So not surprising that we saw a little, I guess, downtick, not substantial, but just a little downtick in sales for the electric utility. Moving to page 3, this shows a representation of your water gallons sold. If we look at 2022, we had 346 million gallons sold in 2022. And in 2023, that increased to about 356 million gallons. If you look at the trends, again, you'll see that there was definitely some conservation efforts over those years. The increase in 2023 was specifically attributable to an increase in your commercial customers. So that's what drove that water sale. Moving to the next page, page 4, which is the sewer gallons. Normally, we see that the sewer would follow the same path as water. Water goes up, sewer should go up, and vice versa. However, you do have some water-only customers within your utility, so that's not always the case at Plymouth. So if we look at 2022, you'll see that we had about 339 million gallons treated. And in 2023, we had an increase of 351 million gallons treated. Most of the increases in 2023 were due to the industrial and high-strength waste. Moving to the next, we'll take a look at the electric rate of return. So if you recall, the electric and water utility, the rates are authorized by the Public Service Commission of Wisconsin. And one of the items that happens with your rates is they authorize a rate of return. So for your water utility, that rate of return was 5.3%. And that 5.3% is a return on your net investment rate base, which is your capital assets, less your accumulated depreciation, takes account your inventory, and takes a look at operating income. So when we look at that calculation, you'll see that your actual rate of return for the electric utility was 2.5%, a little bit lower than the 5.3%. So one thing you may want to do is take a look at that and potentially, take a look at those electric rates, see if they will be adequate going forward, see if you have any major capital projects on the horizon. If so, I would urge you to take a look at those electric rates. But right now, I'd say based on some of the other metrics we're going through, I'd say the electric utility is in good financial health right now. Just to note, the last time your electric rates were changed was in 2015, so it has been quite some time. The good news is that those rates are still adequate. Moving to the next slide, the water rate of return. Same type of thought process here, based on a rate of return on your plant and capital assets. If you look in 2022, that authorized rate of return was 6%. But in 2023, you implemented and applied for a simplified rate increase. So as part of that rate increase, the Public Service Commission now has given you a 4.9% rate of return, given all the market conditions, some of which Justin had described earlier. But when we take a look at your actual return, that actual return is about 4.13%. So a little bit under the actual rate of return, but just know you've also applied for a simplified rate increase in fiscal year 24 as well. So given that increase that's going to be happening in 2024, I'm confident that you will definitely have a strong rate of return going forward.
Aaron, I don't think we did apply for a rate increase in 24. That was in 23.
Okay,
water.
okay. Well, going forward then, the 4.13%, again, barring any major capital additions or any issues there, I'm confident that should be adequate going forward in the short term here. Going to the next slide, everything we talked about, one of the things we definitely want to look at, we looked at rates, we'll look at debt in a bit, but we definitely want to look at your cash position. So one of the metrics we look at is how many months of operating revenue do you have on hand in unrestricted cash? So if we look at 2022, you had roughly almost 9 months of unrestricted cash on hand to cover 9 months worth of operating revenues. In 2023, that increased to almost 10 months. So that's a very strong cash position. We like to say, I guess one of the benchmarks we look at is somewhere between 3 and 6%. So I'd say that 10% is very good. It's a very strong cash position. Going to the next slide. Again, the last item we look at is debt, similar to what Justin had gone through. If you look at the utilities, if we were to take a look at this, if you would, if you, something comparable, if you look at your mortgage, right, that in 2022, about 89% of your fixed assets have been paid off or debt-free. And in 2023, that rose to about 93%, which is a great ratio. What we try to look for is maintaining and making sure that ratio is above 50%. So what this tells us is we definitely have room, if we need to, similar to the general fund, to be able to borrow additional funds for capital construction. So I think in summation, if you look at everything, if you look at your sales, you have strong sales. If you look at your cash position, very strong. Your rates, you keep current with those. You've done a nice job of looking at those and keeping those current. And you have a very good debt position. The utilities appear to be in great financial health. So before I get to questions, again, just like to thank Chris Russo and their entire staff. Always a pleasure to work with. This utility audit went very well on our side. And we definitely appreciate the opportunity to work with everyone again. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions anyone has relative to the utilities, or certainly to the city as well.
Aaron, Mayor Pullman speaking, and Justin, thank you very much for your effort in this. In a summary, it certainly gives both our departments a very high rating and excellent job by the staff. It's the kind of place we want to be as we're going forward with our new projects and projected loan bonding that we're going to be incurring shortly. So this should certainly help us in our positioning for that. It didn't come overnight, obviously. A lot of due diligence went into that, and we appreciate all of the staff in their efforts toward that goal. So if anybody has any questions, we will have a motion to accept the audit report as presented. And thanks again for your timeliness and presentation. It's always appreciated. Tim, you have any comments?
Yeah, no additional comments. Kudos to the whole finance team. They did a great job putting this audit together. So Chris and his whole team, excellent work.
Correct, yeah. Thank you.
That's really all I would add as well. We're definitely a team effort, so kudos goes to the whole team as well. It's not just me.
Good.
And then the only thing I would like to clarify too, just a little bit as well, on that unrestricted cash, is we do have a very large customer deposit for a future project that slightly skews that. If you guys have any more questions about that,
It's nice to have it in the cookie jar though.
correct.
Yeah, so thank you with that. With that, the chair will entertain a motion to accept the audit report as presented.
I'll make a motion to accept the audit report as presented.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you again. Thank you, Baker Tilly. We appreciate your guidance through some of this. It's not easy dealing with all the regulations, but we certainly appreciate leaning on you at times throughout the year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, moving on to item C, extraterritorial CSM seeking approval for all of the northwest quarter of the southwest quarter, part of the southwest quarter of the northwest quarter, and part of the southeast quarter of the northwest quarter, all in sections 8, town 15 north, range 21 east, town of Plymouth, Sheboygan County, Wisconsin, more commonly known as West 6387 Carpathy Lane. Tim, you want to give us a brief summary on that, please?
Yeah, very brief, and I will not repeat the title. Property owner Clayton Prath would like to divide his property into 3 lots. The city of Plymouth does serve as the plat review jurisdiction for the property. The Plan Commission did review this on the August 1st agenda and unanimously approved the CSM as presented. So staff recommends approval.
Thank you. Chair will entertain a motion so we can discuss.
Move to approve the extraterritorial CSM.
A second.
We have a first and a second to approve the CSM as presented. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll, please.
Gilson,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
Mattsdorf,
Yes.
Binder,
Yes.
Penquitz.
Abstain.
Motion carried, thank you. The next 2 items are a little unusual, and if we have any questions, we'll maybe lean on our city attorney for any detailed explanation on it. This is due to some changes that we made in an ordinance process, and the mayor I'll read them both. We'll treat the 2 appointments, D and E, separately when we vote on them. But basically, the mayor hereby asks for the council to affirm the appointment of Terry Abler, Mel Blanke, and Scott Flood to the revolving loan committee until May of 2027. Reminder that we do need a 3/4 majority vote to affirm these appointments. Chair will entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the appointments as recommended by the mayor.
Second.
We have a first and a second. Thank you. Any discussion? This brings into compliance the requirement that we amended in the ordinance. These members were previous members of the revolving loan fund and had moved out of the city, therefore non-qualifying. And the same is true with item E. A lot of experience and years of talent to the revolving loan committee, valuable assets to how that committee is run and going forward. So we have a first and a second. Roll call on this, please, because the 3/4 majority.
Penquitz,
Yes.
Binder,
Yes.
Mattsdorf,
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
Gilson,
Yes.
Nelson.
Yes.
Motion carried, thank you. Next item, Mayor asks for approval from the council for the appointment of Brian Downa. I did that, okay, to the ad hoc Affordable Housing Committee. And again, we need a 3/4 vote in order to comply with this. Chair will entertain a motion.
I'll move that we approve Brian to the ad hoc housing committee.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. Any discussion? Clerk will call the roll, please.
Gilson,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Herman,
Yes.
Mattsdorf,
Yes.
Binder,
Yes.
Penquitz.
Yes. Motion carried, thank you. Chair will entertain a motion for the next council meeting, going back to our Tuesday, August 27th, 2024 at 7 o'clock. Chair will entertain a motion to approve. Adjourn and approve.
I move to adjourn.
Saying, I wanted to get that in there because it's Wednesday and not Tuesday, so we wanted to do that. Thank you. We have a first and a second. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, the ayes have it. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody.
Wasn't this